I never thought truth could arrive dressed in something as ordinary as a Sunday roast. The day began with the smell of garlic and rosemary seeping through my parents' kitchen, a domestic soundtrack of plates clinking, chairs scraping, my mother scolding the dog for dreaming too loudly under the table. It was the kind of dinner where every story had already been told 100 times, yet everyone pretended to hear it for the first. Anna, my sister, stole olives from the salad. My father launched again into the tale of his first apartment, the one with a slanted floor that made the eggs roll toward the balcony door. Laughter, steam, silverware, the whole ritual of being a family that believes noise is proof of love. And then she said it. Mariella, my fiancée, set down her fork with that deliberate quiet people use when they're about to change everything. Her shoulders squared, chin lifted just slightly, like she was bracing herself against wind. My ex will always be part of my life, she said, each word crisp enough to cut through gravy steam. If you don't like that, don't marry me. It wasn't a shout, it was worse, a calm verdict. The sentence hung in the air, weightless but impossible to breathe through. My father froze mid-slice. My mother blinked twice, calculating how many seconds one can politely wait before pretending nothing happened. Anna's eyes flicked between us like a spectator at a slow-motion crash. Even the dog lifted its head. I could feel everyone waiting for me to correct her, laugh it off, explode, something cinematic. But I only said, okay. The word came out soft, like the click of a door latch. Not surrender. Not forgiveness. Just, acknowledgement of a weather change. My mother refilled water glasses that were still full. My father coughed into his napkin. The dinner carried on, but the laughter that followed had a crack in it. Even the clinking of cutlery sounded cautious, as if the spoons feared taking sides. When dessert came, my mother's flan that refused to set properly, Mariella complimented it. The flan trembled, my mother's smile did too. After coffee, we left with polite kisses on cheeks that no longer felt like family but diplomacy. Outside, the air was cool and restless. We walked to the car under the yellow streetlight hum. She didn't look at me until the engine started. You said, okay, she murmured. You said, always, I replied. Silence settled between us, thick as fog. The wipers moved once, though there was no rain. She exhaled. He's part of my story, she said. I can't erase someone who was there when I was falling apart. He helped build the version of me that you love now. I gripped the steering wheel. Is he a friend, or a monument you keep polishing? She frowned. He's not a threat. I didn't call him one. You're angry. I'm thinking, I said. There's a difference. At home, we brushed our teeth side by side, our reflections refusing to look at each other. We got into bed and lay still, a gulf of untouched sheets between us. Her breathing came slow, steady, mine matched it out of habit, like two metronomes trying to find the same song. Somewhere in the dark, the dog from my parents' house barked again in memory. Sleep didn't come. Only replay. Morning light revealed the stack of wedding invitations on the kitchen table, cream envelopes stamped with our initials, M and L, entangled like a promise. The sight of them felt heavier than it should have. She poured coffee, black and silent, and said nothing. I watched her hands shake slightly when she lifted the cup. Maybe from caffeine. Maybe from truth. By noon, we both pretended to work. Emails went unread, spreadsheets turned into white noise. That evening, she reached across the table and said, I don't want to fight with you. We're not fighting, I said. We're negotiating ghosts. She almost smiled. You think you can exorcise the past with rules? Maybe boundaries, I said. No late-night calls. No nostalgia disguised as friendship. No shared jokes that only make sense in another timeline. She nodded, biting her lip. Okay. Boundaries. It sounded like peace, but the kind that comes after surrender. We slept again, backs turned, counting compromises instead of sheep. 3 days later, Her phone buzzed while she showered. A message flashed, "Heard you got the apartment together. Congratulations." No name, just a number, but I knew. My stomach twisted with the kind of knowledge that doesn't need proof. I didn't open it, but she saw my face when she came out of the bathroom. "Who texted?" she asked. "You tell me," I said. She read it, exhaled, then looked up at me. "I told him about the move months ago." "He must have just remembered." "Must have," I repeated. We stood there for a minute, both pretending the silence was ordinary. That night she cried quietly, thinking I was asleep. I didn't move. I just listened to the small sound of something cracking inside both of us. The next morning, the invitations still sat untouched on the table, a field of pale envelopes waiting for Faith. Mariella picked one up, traced our initials with her thumb, then set it back down as if it burned. She tried to smile. "We should drop these off today." "Should we?" I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. "You don't want to." "I want to make sure we're mailing the right story." We drove in silence to the print shop. She hummed something faint under her breath, a tune I didn't recognize. At a red light she whispered, "You know I love you." I nodded. "I do. That's the problem. I love you enough to listen carefully to everything you say." The woman at the shop handed us the boxes. "Beautiful design," she said. "Modern but timeless." Mariella thanked her. I paid. We didn't mail them. We brought the boxes home and left them unopened by the door. That evening, my sister called. "You okay?" she asked. "Define okay," I said. She sighed. "Mom says you looked like a ghost at dinner." "I guess ghosts keep quiet to stay invited." Anna paused. "You sure she's worth it?" "I'm not sure of anything," I admitted. "But I'm still here." Friday night, the rain arrived. The kind that makes cities whisper. We watched it from the window, both pretending it was romantic. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for a few minutes the world shrank to the size of her breath. Then her phone lit up again. One word on the screen, "Call me." I didn't speak. She read it, locked the phone, set it face down. After a long minute she said, "He heard his dog died. He's grieving. So he called you?" "I'm his friend," she said quietly. "Or at least I was." "And what am I?" She blinked. "You're my future." The next morning, she found me at the table, scrolling through the text, thumb hovering above reply. She took the phone, deleted the message, then met my eyes. "I'll tell him not to contact me again." Her voice shook but didn't break. "Do you mean that?" "Yes. I do." Days later, she did. I overheard the call by accident, her voice steady, his distant and fragile. When she hung up, she stared at the floor a long time. "He said I'm cruel," she whispered. "He said love doesn't vanish." "Maybe not," I said. "But sometimes it relocates." We sat in silence until she reached for my hand. "I need a day alone," she said. "To think without echoes." She packed a small bag and left for her mother's. The apartment felt too large, too honest. I cleaned things that weren't dirty. I made coffee I didn't drink. That night I dreamed of 3 chairs at a table, me, her, and a shadow that kept refilling everyone's glass. When she returned the next evening, her eyes were swollen, but her voice was light. "I needed that," she said. "I know." She placed a single envelope on the table. "One invitation," she said. "For us." The others, she explained, she had shredded. "We'll start over when it feels real again." For a week, it did feel real. We cooked, laughed, fell asleep tangled together. It wasn't the easy happiness of forgetting, it was the slow rebuilding that follows an earthquake. Then came the message from him to me. Not her, me. She sounded upset. Just making sure she's okay. The audacity of concern wrapped in politeness. I typed and deleted a dozen replies. Finally I wrote, she's fine. Don't contact us again. I stared at the screen until the message showed, read. No answer. Just absence. That evening she noticed my jaw clenched and asked, what happened? Nothing new, I said. Just a ghost knocking on the wrong door. She understood instantly. He texted you? Yes. Her face went pale. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just make sure it's the last time. She nodded, then did something I hadn't expected. She blocked his number in front of me. I want peace, she said simply. For both of us. Peace, however, is not silence. It's the noise you choose to keep. Over the next days, she started to hum again when she cooked. She sent memes to my sister. We went to visit my parents, and for the first time since the dinner, the laughter came back without effort. Even my mother noticed. You two look lighter, she said. Mariella smiled. Maybe we're learning how to carry love correctly. But that night, after everyone slept, I woke to find her standing on the balcony, phone in hand, staring at the dark. The screen was off, but she held it like something sacred. I didn't say anything. I just walked over, took her free hand, and together we watched the city breathe. After a while, she whispered, sometimes I miss who I was with him. Not him, just the version of me that wasn't afraid of breaking things. I squeezed her hand. Then be her again. With me. She looked at me, eyes bright, fragile. You'd let me? I'd help you, I said. For the first time in weeks, she smiled without guilt. When Sunday came again, the city smelled of rain and renewal. We hadn't talked much during the week. Silence had become a language we were both learning to speak without resentment. That morning she made coffee, humming softly, and the tune didn't sound like goodbye anymore. She looked up at me over the rim of her cup. Do you still want to marry me? I never stopped, I said. I just needed to know who I'd be sharing the room with, us or the past. She nodded. Then let's make new invitations. Lighter ones. We spent the afternoon on the living room floor surrounded by paper and markers like two kids doing homework for hope. She doodled tiny hearts in the margins. I wrote the addresses. Every stroke felt like re-signing a contract with forgiveness. That night, she asked if we could visit my parents again next weekend. I want to face that table, she said. Properly this time. The week passed quietly. I worked. She painted again for the first time in months, filling canvases with cool colors that somehow looked warmer than words. Sometimes I caught her staring at her phone, but only to delete old photos. Each erased image felt like a window closing gently in another life. On Saturday evening we dressed for dinner as if for a ceremony. In the mirror, I saw her adjusting her earrings, breathing deeply, the reflection of someone who had already walked through the fire and learned where not to step. At the doorway she reached for my hand. Whatever happens, she said, thank you for not turning my honesty into punishment. Thank you, I replied, for turning your honesty into clarity. At my parents' house the same familiar chaos greeted us, my mother's voice from the kitchen, my father's jokes, Anna's unstoppable laughter, the dog already begging before we sat down. Mariella squeezed my hand beneath the table. My mother served roasted chicken again, pretending last time hadn't existed. But it had, and we both knew it. Halfway through dinner, Mariella set down her fork, not with the tension of confession, but with calm. I owe everyone here an apology, she began. Last time I made this table heavier. I forgot that love isn't a competition between timelines. My mother blinked, surprised, then smiled. All families survive heavier things than words, dear. Anna raised her glass. To lighter tables. And everyone laughed, genuine this time. Later that night, as we left, my father slipped a small envelope into my pocket. Inside was a photograph, our engagement picture, printed and slightly bent. On the back he had written, "Stable ground takes time to settle." I looked up, he winked. "I've seen worse storms," he said. At home, we stood in the doorway surrounded by unopened mail and the soft hush of a place that finally felt like ours. She turned on the light, and I realized the boxes of invitations were gone. "I donated them," she said. "Let someone else print their forever on recycled hope." I laughed. Maybe that's how forever should start, reused. We danced in the living room to no music, the rhythm of our breathing steady and clumsy. Weeks blurred into something normal. The wedding wasn't huge, but it was honest. When we said our vows, there wasn't a hint of performance. She promised not perfection, but presence. I promised not certainty, but choice, every day, the decision to stay. My mother cried loud enough for the whole front row. Anna caught the bouquet even though she swore she wouldn't. And when the dog, dressed in a ridiculous bow tie, ran down the aisle, everyone laughed, even Mariella through her tears. Later that night, when the music had faded and the guests were gone, we sat barefoot on the steps outside the venue. The moon hung above like a coin someone had forgotten to spend. She leaned her head against my shoulder. "Remember what I said at dinner that first time?" I nodded. Every word. I was afraid back then. Afraid of erasing who I used to be. But I get it now, you don't have to erase chapters, just stop rereading them. I smiled. "And what about always?" She looked up at the stars. "It still exists, just smaller. Manageable." I kissed her forehead. "Then we're fine." We sat there, counting breaths instead of minutes. Somewhere inside the building, the last staff light flickered out. It was quiet enough to hear the night think. Her fingers brushed mine. "Do you think people ever stop dragging their ghosts around?" "Maybe not," I said. "But they learn how to let them walk behind instead of beside." She nodded. "That's enough." When we finally drove home, the world outside the windshield looked washed clean. The streetlights glowed softer, forgiving. Sunday arrived again. The smell of coffee and toast filled our small apartment. We didn't rush anywhere. She sat by the window, sketching. I read the paper, pretending to understand the stock pages. At noon we visited my parents. The same table, same chatter, same love disguised as noise. Anna dropped an olive into my glass like she always did. Everyone laughed. Mariella reached under the table and took my hand, not nervously, not performatively, just because that's what love does when it's simple. My father started the old story again about the slanted apartment and the runaway eggs. I didn't mind hearing it anymore. Some stories don't get old, they just remind you where balance begins. And when dessert came, my mother's flan sat in the center of the table, shimmering with quiet pride. This time it held firm. The spoon cut cleanly through. The taste was sweet, heavy, real. The flan set. Not perfectly. Perfect enough. If you felt this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Your support helps this channel grow and brings more stories like this one. Thank you for watching.